Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being with us here today. I am reconvening the special council meeting from Monday, May 17th to order. For the members of the public who are watching us, thank you for being with us this afternoon. You could view us by logging on to the Facebook page, channel 6032 with Frontier and channel 96 with Comcast. I welcome you all. With that said, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Here.
Councilman LeBron.
Here.
Councilman Mitchum.
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Present.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Here.
Councilman Sanchez. Councilman Sanchez. Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And our town clerk will lead us on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I make a motion that we recess this reconvened meeting until a time to be determined.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez. Councilman Sanchez. Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here, yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This council body is now in recess. For members of the viewers, please stand by. We will be back shortly. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being with us here today. I am reconvening the special council meeting from Monday, May 17th to order. For the members of the public who are watching us, thank you for being with us this afternoon. You could view us by logging on to the Facebook page, channel 6032 with Frontier and channel 96 with Comcast. I welcome you all. With that said, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Here.
Councilman LeBron.
Here.
Councilman Mitchum.
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Present.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Here.
Councilman Sanchez. Councilman Sanchez. Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here,
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And our town clerk will lead us on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I make a motion that we recess this reconvened meeting until a time to be determined.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez, Councilman Sanchez, Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here, yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This council body is now in recess. For members of the viewers, please stand by. We will be back shortly. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back as we reconvene this special council meeting of Monday, May 17th to order. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
It's May 18th, for the
I'm sorry,
record.
May 18th.
Thank you. Councilman Clark,
Here.
Councilman Gale,
Here.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Present.
Councilman LeBron,
Here.
Councilman Mitchum,
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Present.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Here.
Councilman Sanchez, Councilman Sanchez, Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion to introduce financial resolutions from the Democratic Party.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. I would like to read the Democratic Party's financial resolution as follows. Resolve that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $20,000 to Health and Human Services to be allocated for operational support of the various senior centers, row 1481, object number 534098. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $70,000 to the pay-go CapEx reserve to be allocated for Hartford Decides, row 15263, object number 591047. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $100,000 to the tree account funded through the pay-go CapEx reserve, row 1562, object number 591047, to be allocated for the planting of new trees to replenish our diminishing tree canopy so that all neighborhoods will benefit. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $50,000 to Hartford Next, row 1573, object 589272, for support for the 13 NRZs. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $200,000 to increase the Human Resource Department's budget line 384, object 534098 for external support. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of a total of $200,000 to the Department of Development Services budget row 1361, object 510101, to hire 2 additional housing inspectors, $120,000, and health benefits, healthcare claims, row 1532, object number 521003, to cover the approximate cost of benefits for the new employees, $80,000. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $100,000 to the Department of Development Services Special Projects budget line 1418, object 588903 for Homestead Avenue Planning Study. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $12,000 to the Town and City Clerk's budget line 167, object 510101 for a salary increase of the Town and City Clerk. Be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $168,250 to the Court of Common Council's budget line 54, object 534098 for City Council legal services and consultants. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $31,750 to the Hartford Public Library 00721 to be allocated to Library Administration row 1513, object number 721000 to be allocated for the Satellite Library Program. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $150,000 from the general fund under legal expenses and settlements, prior year tax refunds, row 1632, object number 589373. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $190,000 from the general fund under the mitigation strategies, attrition row 1549, object number 510110. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $150,000 from the general fund under the other benefits, workers' compensation claims row 1542, object number 521020. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $175,000 from the general fund under the insurance claims row 1537, object number 552004. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $100,000 from the general fund under the lease payments rental row 1591, object number 544003. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $187,000 from the general fund under the health benefits, healthcare claims row 1532, object number 521003.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any comments? Any discussion? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll? Mr. Clerk, you're on mute. You might have to log off and log back on again, Mr. Clerk. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Councilman Clark,
There you go.
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion to introduce non-financial resolution, Democratic Party, number one. Resolve that the Hartford Police Department shall use $70,000 of its budgeted funds in fiscal year 2023 to support the Police Athletic League.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion to introduce non-financial resolution, Democratic Party, number two. Resolve that if there is a fiscal year 2022 surplus in excess of $6 million, surplus funds in excess of that amount up to a maximum of an additional $6 million shall be transferred to the CapEx reserve and shall be earmarked as follows: 50% for economic and community development investments in the South End, Frog Hollow, Parkville, Soto, Siscon, Berry Square, or Southwest Behind the Rocks neighborhoods, and 50% for the community economic development investments in the Upper Albany, Clay Hill, Clay Arsenal, Blue Hills, Asylum Hill, West End, and Northeast neighborhoods, provided that at least $500,000 of such funds shall be made available for investments on Homestead Avenue.
I second the motion.
A motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mitchum.
I would actually just move a friendly amendment, which I think is just to correct a tiny error that I thought I heard, which is that when the majority leader listed the first set of neighborhoods, he ended it with an or, which suggests that all the money would have to go to one of that group of neighborhoods. But the second group of neighborhoods, he ended with an and. So I would move to amend the word, to swap in the word and for the word or as the end of that the list of the South End neighborhoods.
Majority Leader.
Through you, Madam President, just for a little clarification, I thank you for Councilman Mitchum raising that point. However, in the non-financial resolution number two, it does read Berry Square or Southwest Behind the Rock neighborhoods. And then also,
So it was just me.
Yeah.
Then I withdraw that. Sorry for the trouble.
No
No,
problem.
no worries. We've had a long day. Are there any other comments or discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion to introduce non-financial resolution, Democratic Party number three. Resolve that the city of Hartford shall use the $100,000 of currently unallocated ARPA funding in support of the city senior centers.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion to introduce non-financial resolution, Democratic Party number 4. Resolve, if there is a fiscal year 2022 surplus in excess of $5 million, the city shall set aside surplus funds up to an additional $1 million in a reserve fund to be used for vehicles, equipment, and technology. And if funds are sufficient, shall be used to purchase such vehicles as deemed necessary by the Department of Public Works and the Fire Department.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader?
Thank you, Madam President. That concludes all the non-financial resolutions by the Democratic Party. I now yield my time to Councilman John Gill of the Hartford Party.
Thank you very much, Mr. Majority Leader. And I move the adoption of Hartford Party non-financial resolution number 1, whereas police athletic leagues in general and the Hartford Police Department Police Athletic League, the PAL program in particular, provide opportunities for the police force to mentor and coach young people, both boys and girls, in sports and help with homework and other school-related activities. The purpose is to provide needed recreation while building character, strengthening police-community relations, and introducing our youth to public safety opportunities within the city. And whereas due to COVID-related issues, among other things, Hartford's PAL program is perhaps not as robust as it could be, and whereas the need for a robust PAL program has not gone away, and if anything, the need is stronger than ever. Now, therefore, resolved that the mayor, working with the police chief, the police union, the Board of Education, and the PAL program, report back to the City Council by September 1, 2022, with a plan for enhancement of our PAL program, providing specifics as to the number of children our present program serves on a weekly basis and the number to be served by the proposed enhanced model.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilman Gill, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to move the adoption of non-financial resolution Hartford Party number 2, whereas public safety impacts the quality of life of every resident of, visitor to, worker in, and stakeholder of Hartford. And whereas the quality of life on Hartford streets is being negatively impacted by ignorance of and willful ignoring of basic rules of conduct codified in our statutes and ordinances. And whereas a vital role of government is to encourage conformance with our statutes and ordinances through, but not limited to, enforcement actions, now therefore be it resolved that the mayor, working with the police chief and the police union, provide to council and the city of Hartford a plan for restoring order to the traffic flow in the streets of Hartford, with an initial outline due on or before July 2nd, 2022, and a final plan by July 15th, 2022.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Councilman Mitchum?
Just briefly, I appreciate this this resolution from Councilman Gale. I think it's true that we have a real problem with the way folks drive in this city. It's a peril to families and children playing in the street and folks walking. I just want to add, and I know this was intended, and I'm sure this is how it'll happen, that hopefully this plan will come not just with the police and the mayor, but taking into account the traffic calming projects that are already underway and the ones that we hope to see in the future, recognizing that it's an enforcement issue, but it's also an infrastructure and a planning issue. But I thank you, Councilman Gale, for the resolution.
Any further discussion? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Madam President, I heard the Councilman Gale said July 2nd, and the resolution here in front of me says July 1st.
It is July 1st. If I misspoke, it is July.
Thank you. Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And that concludes the non-financial resolutions for the Hartford Party. Mr. Majority Leader?
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I yield my time to Councilman Josh Mitchum of the Working Families Party.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. And through you, Council President, I would move the consideration of Working Families Party Resolution, Financial Resolution 1. And I'll ask your indulgence as I get it in front of me on the computer here. It's, as people have said, it has been a long evening,
Yes.
but here it is. So here, this is Financial Resolution WFP 1. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $30,000 to the Department of Health and Human Services relocation expense 588300, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $70,000 from non-op department expenditures legal services 534010, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect an allocation of $100,000 to New Haven Legal Assistance Association for the continued operation of emergency legal representation services for Hartford families facing deportation.
I would second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? Councilman Mitchum.
Very briefly, just so folks know, this is the continuation of the program that we started last year to provide representation to folks in the process of deportation, undocumented people in our city mostly, and that has served a number of families so far. It has provided way more representation than they could have gotten for the money that we invested in it. So we see it as a success, and I'm glad that I believe it has the support of my colleagues. That's all.
Are there any other further discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilman Josh, you have the floor. Councilman Mitchum, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. Through you, I would move that this body consider Financial Resolution WFP number 4. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $300,000 to the police budget 00212, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $300,000 to the fire department 00211 to hire 3 additional prevention lieutenants.
I would second the motion.
A motion has been made and properly second. Councilman Mitchum.
Thank you, Council President. You all may recall, folks who watch may recall that during budget hearings, Chief Barco of the Hartford Fire Department told us that that his department could use between 10 and 20 more fire prevention lieutenants. These are essentially the folks who help to stop fires before they start, the folks who can do inspections of our buildings. And that's based on the number of buildings and the age of buildings and the density of our population. In that regard, we are first in our state in terms of old buildings, number of buildings, and density of population. Obviously, it would have been nice to give him more, closer to somewhere between 10 and 20, but I was glad to get the agreement of some of my colleagues to pass this matter. So we have settled on 3 as a start, and hopefully that will improve and increase in the future, because public safety is more than just funding the police fully every time. It's making sure that we don't have fires. It's making sure that our housing is safe. It's really taking care of all of the things that make lives work here and let people thrive in our city. And fire prevention is obviously really important in that. That's all. Thank you.
Are there any other further discussion? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
No.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilman Mixtum, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm scrambling to get my next resolution in front of me. Give me just a moment. I would move that this body consider. No, sorry, that's the wrong one. Forgive me. I am going to move that we consider financial resolution WFP number 5, and God willing, I'll get it in front of me soon. Yes, I have it. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $1 million to the police budget.
Point of order, did you just say number 5?
That's what I said.
Resolution second. What happened to 3 and 4?
They were withdrawn. That's not an accident.
Oh, okay. For the record, they were withdrawn. Councilman Clark?
Yes, Madam President. No, I've been keeping track. Councilman Mitchum is moving in accordance with what was submitted to the town and city clerk's office. Just for clarity, their financial resolutions are resolutions number 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The non-financial resolutions by WFP are 1, 3, and 4. So there is no sequential order, but he is going in that particular order.
Thank you so much, Majority Leader, for that clarification.
You're
I
welcome.
apologize, Councilman Mixon, for
No.
interrupting you. Just wanted for the record.
A very fair question, and I thank the majority leader for saying what I should have said at the outset.
Sure. You may continue.
So, that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $1 million to the police department 00212, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $1 million to the Department of Public Works Parks 311007 for improved maintenance of all the city's parks through increased staffing and services aimed to provide the safety and hygiene of Hartford's public spaces.
I would second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mixon.
Let me defer to Councilwoman Hercules. I've talked so much. She had
Councilwoman
her hand up as
Hercules?
well.
Thank you. Very briefly, as we have heard throughout budget presentations from many departments, we are working with pretty tight budget and trying to do a great deal in our beloved city. We all know that public safety, it comprises of many different components in addition to the police, and ensuring that our infrastructure, particularly where our youngest residents play and cultivate joy, which would be our parks and playgrounds, ensuring that those are safe places and that DPW is properly resourced to ensure the upkeep and maintenance and beautification of those spaces that we all love and enjoy. This increase to DPW would go a long way in helping in that effort. We've heard from residents throughout the community, and while we know that, again, police are an important aspect of our community, they are not the only component of public safety. And so we are asking for support of this resolution.
Are there any further discussions? Councilman Mixtum.
Thank you, Council President. I would add to that, folks have heard me talk at great length about how we don't need police or we need far fewer in the past. I'm not going to do that this year, but I am going to point out, as I have in the past, that the number of police we have is very high for our population. There's just no way around that. We can look at it in terms of metropolitan statistical area, as Councilman Gale has suggested, and we're still double the median for areas our size. We can look at it in terms of just cities between 100,000 and 2,000 residents, and we're more than double the median for cities our size. We can look at it in terms of 911 call. We have a lot of cops. So I think, and it's not to say that we don't need some cops. I'm not going there. But what I am going to say is that as managers of the budget, which is our job to do oversight of the budget, if we have a department that comes to us and says, we need more, we can't meet our requirements, even with this number that many other similar cities can meet their requirements with, it is our responsibility to say, perhaps you are not managing your resources well. And again, as Councilwoman Hercules said, where all of our departments need more. I think we all agree, we're all shuffling and trying to figure out how to make the money work. We can look to the biggest pot, and the one that maybe suggests not the best management of resources, and they could take a little haircut for the benefit of other things. And that is all I want to say here. Like, we're talking about a broader conception of public safety that includes police, fire, parks, health, all the things that make a good life. And so police can give up a little because that million will do a ton of good in our parks, in our playgrounds, in the spaces where our young folks get involved in activities that keep them out of crime and out of trouble. So I would ask my colleagues to support this one.
Thank you, Councilman Mixtum. Are there any other further discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman Mixtum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
No.
Councilman Clark,
No.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
No.
Councilman LeBron,
No.
Councilman Sanchez,
Oh,
Councilwoman Rosetti,
No.
Councilman Gale.
No.
Motion fail.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilman Mixtum, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move that this body consider Financial Resolution WFP number 6. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $500,000 to police, 00212. Be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $500,000 to the Department of Children, Family, and Recreation for the expansion of family programming and enrichment for Hartford children, youth, and adults.
Second the motion?
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mixtum.
Pretty much the same argument that I just made for the last one is what I'm making for this one. It is a good thing. I voted for the Dems financial resolutions because they did put money toward, for example, the Police Athletic League and other activities for children. But until we make that the same kind of priority that we make policing, we're going to keep spinning our wheels on the big problems that we face. Even our police chief in his testimony said that he couldn't really say that more police reduce crime because nobody can really say that because the data don't support it. But the data do support the idea that recreation activities for children, good parks, good housing, those things reduce crime. And so this is a way to do that while barely touching the police's $50 million. So again, I would ask my colleagues to support this one.
Are there any other discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman Mixtum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
No.
Councilman Clark,
No.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
No.
Councilman LeBron,
No.
Councilman Sanchez,
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
No.
Councilman Gale.
No.
Motion failed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilman Josh Mixtum, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move that this body consider and vote on financial resolution WFP number 7. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $500,000 to the police, 00212, and be it further resolved, excuse me, that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect an increase of $500,000 to the Department of Development Services, 00420, for the establishment of a renters emergency fund to reduce the impact of eviction and homelessness on Hartford residents.
I would second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions or comments on this resolution? Councilman Mixtum.
Thank you, Madam President. This is something that Councilwoman Hercules thought of, and it came from really, truly from our constituents, because we have been talking a lot with folks who rent apartments in the city. That's 75% of the population. And they are struggling mightily right now. Rent, everyone knows, everyone has surely heard that rents are up across the board in the country and here in Hartford. Evictions, since the eviction moratorium was lifted, have literally, they've skyrocketed. We are, I think, #1 in the nation on evictions per capita this city. And one of the problems that even our folks who have housing have is that they have substandard housing, or they're seeing their rent rise, and they can make rent, but it's very hard for them to come up with $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a security deposit to be able to move. So the idea of this program was to create a fund where people who can make rent, who have been paying rent, but can't make that much larger chunk, that is 3 months rent that many landlords require, could apply to the city for a one-time grant. And what it would do is allow them to move to more appropriate housing. It would put pressure on the landlords who don't take care of their property to do that, because they would lose tenants. And it would encourage the landlords who do take care of their property, because it would make it easier for them to gain steady rent-paying tenants. So this is the idea here is not just to give out cash to help people, but really to have an effect on the market that helps tenants in the situation when tenants are being hurt all around. And I just think it's a really good idea that Councilwoman Hercules had. A number of my colleagues seem to think it was a good idea, but said that we should convene agencies, talk about how this money can come from other places. What we heard during hearings is that there's not really assistance for tenants until they lose their housing, right? When you're homeless, then you can get down payment assistance. But when you're not, you can't. And I don't think anyone here thinks that this need doesn't exist. And I also know that everyone on this council body has acted on short notice to address pressing problems that are affecting us. And I've had some conversations with my colleagues where they suggested to me that this would not be popular with our voters, because our voters are mostly homeowners. And I think that's probably true. Unfortunately, voter participation is low in Hartford, but I think we should remember that our constituents are mostly renters. Even if none of us is a renter, and that's true, none of the 9 of us is, our constituents are overwhelmingly renters, and our duty is to them. And they are suffering. Everyone is suffering. Property taxes are high, don't get me wrong, but they're suffering more. And this is an easy, effective way to make a big difference in their lives. So I would, again, plead with my colleagues to support this.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President. I would echo obviously all the sentiments that my council colleague Josh Mixtum has just advanced on this hearing in support of this measure. We are in a crisis here in the city of Hartford with respect to housing. 75% of our constituents are renters, and many of them are trying to figure out how they're going to ensure that they do not end up homeless as a result of increasing rental rates. Rents are increasing, gas is increasing, the cost of food is increasing, their salaries and wages are not increasing. And so while this may seem like something that's not necessarily the business of the city, I would say to meet and address pressing crisis and emergency needs is certainly the business of the city. I don't know how many of my council colleagues have ever lived in a shelter with their family members, but I have with my children, and it's not a pleasant thing to experience while you're trying to manage day to day. It's a demoralizing thing to have to live in a shelter with your children. And so I think as much as we are able to help families in need, we're not building more affordable housing in Hartford. We're doing a less than ideal job at ensuring the housing we do have is safe with the low number of inspectors we have. And so this is one thing that we can do immediately to help families that are in crisis. And so I know it's never popular to move money from the police budget, but I would argue that safety of this accord is very much merited and warranted. And if we have the power to do something about it, I think we would be derelict in our obligation and responsibility not to do so.
Councilman LeBron?
Yes. So let me start off by saying that that I understand that Councilman Mictum and Councilwoman Hercules are intentional about taking the money from the police department. I disagree with that, particularly as of this year. We're on a rate of the most homicides that a record number of homicides. And now, although I agree with Councilman Mictum that, there isn't enough research that says that more policing does not, it would affect this, on the other end of that, I would argue that there's also no research that shows that a decrease in police would also negatively affect it immediately. But with that being said, I myself, along with Councilwoman Hercules, had to come up in a shelter and have lived there myself. So that's something that personally touches my heart. And so also being in the social work field and in the human service field and dedicating my career to, poverty related issues and folks with the most adverse risk factors, that have affected them, systematic issues that causes to be poor, fundamental societal things that just keeps people in poverty, generational poverty, that putting it on the scale, or the scales of justice is a more fancier word, helping people from being homeless, I would outweigh. So that's why I letting everyone know here that I don't agree with it coming from the police, but I do agree wholeheartedly that we need to do something, especially post-pandemic, where people are suffering from mental health, anxiety, and all of those things are causing constraints on the housing issues that we are having. So I will be voting favorably for this. Thank you.
And what I'll say is I agree with everything that both Councilman Mictum and Councilwoman Hercules, also Councilman LeBron just said. This resolution is very dear to my heart, because not only are the parents suffering, right? When you see that you're going to be evicted, or that you are about to be evicted, it also puts a stress on the children who are old enough to see what their parents are going through. So it's a really tough situation to be in. I can't support this resolution because it's budget is coming out of the police department. And what I would like to do is have further conversations with you both to find other resources within the city to come up with something like what you have referenced in this resolution and move forward with it. Thank you. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to echo the sentiment from our council president, from Councilman Nick LeBron and the Working Family Party. I truly believe and understand where you're coming from. I do support the notion and the reasoning behind it, but I think this is the opportunity so that we can conversate on how we're going to dissect the funding from the ARPA that was allocated to different departments, especially the health department and also the development services, DDS. I think this is where we can focus after the budget hearing. And once we approve this, how we're going to move forward so that we can start using those funds where we, the council, this body, feel fit that is more appropriate and direct those funding towards purposes like this. I will not be supporting this resolution, but I do support the interest and the intent. And I would like to have the conversation, as Council President mentioned, so that we can start addressing that with other funding that we do have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Sanchez. Are there any other further discussions? Councilman Gale.
I just want to respond to one comment made by Councilwoman Hercules. I believe she said that we are not building any affordable housing in the city of Hartford, and I don't think that's accurate. Westbrook Village has a new name, but there's hundreds and hundreds of units of affordable housing that are being constructed right now as we speak, and they're moving into different phases every day. Bulls Park, I believe, still has other phases before it's completed, and Mutual Housing just completed a boatload of units on Park Street and Park Terrace. So we are building affordable housing. We can build more, I'm not saying that, but we are building.
Thank you, Councilman Gale. Councilwoman Rossetti?
Thank you, Council President. As I stated earlier to Councilman Mitchum, I also think there's an opportunity to talk to the existing organizations who deal with down payment assistance. I believe we're in a position that at this time is very different than even 2 years ago. So certainly I support in theory what we're saying, but I also think we have some opportunities instead of reinventing the wheel ourselves to go to these organizations. And that was my point when we were in discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rossetti. Are there Councilman Mitchum?
I just want to thank my colleagues for engaging with this idea, and especially I appreciate Councilman Sanchez's point that we can still dig into this. Well, both Councilman Sanchez and Councilwoman Rossetti, that we can dig into this through ARPA funds and through other partners in the community. And of course, I'm gonna hold y'all to that. I do have to say, and I appreciate Councilman LeBron supporting it, notwithstanding his misgivings about taking money from the police. I gotta say, like, the police can afford this haircut. Okay, this is like barely more than what the police spend on the K-9 unit. Right? This is a drop in a big bucket for them. Where on the other hand, it's a huge amount of money for the families that it would serve. But I appreciate what everyone has said, and I hope we'll come together on this shortly.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, I just want to piggyback off Councilman Gale's comments. So I just quickly looked up, and I remember having this conversation several years ago that the city of Hartford, there's been a claim that we don't have enough affordable housing. Well, the truth of the matter is, according to the data, is that the city of Hartford is the most saturated of all the region's towns when it comes to affordable housing. We're at above 39% versus the average of the region of 14% of affordable housing. We are at a point where if we do tip above a certain percentage, now it would negatively affect the economy in the city, especially when it comes to home ownership and business-owned properties for those Hartford residents in the city. This is where should be another conversation when it comes to the region and holding our neighboring towns responsible for the percentage that they're supposedly by the state charter are supposed to have. I'm not sure what the percentage it's supposed to have, but they're obligated to have a certain percentage of affordable housing as well. And unfortunately, we are carrying, once again, we're shouldering that burden as well. So, I think it's important that we do the research to find out how are the other towns, our neighboring towns within this region, are supporting the city when it comes to affordable housing as well, if they're following the compliance. Thank you. That is my comment. Thank you, Councilman Mictum.
Are there any other comments? There being none, Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I do know that there's money that has been allocated within the state of Connecticut through, I believe, this past most recent legislative session. That even though it has not been identified as to how much money the city of Hartford will be receiving, the city of Hartford does stand to receive probably in excess of more than what is being proposed today. However, I would like to urge my colleagues to let's really form a either ad hoc committee and really quickly convene a meeting of stakeholders to see how they can actually partner with the city of Hartford to provide more funding for I'm sorry, it's not relocation assistance, for emergency funding for housing, because the need is great. I believe Councilman Mitchum had discussed earlier today that 75% of our residential base are renters. And I mean, that is an alarming rate where we actually do need to really look to see how we can actually help out our constituents. However, we need to identify a process on how we're doing that. Many other organizations, such as the Larrabee Fund, has these type of funds set up, but you basically are almost out of the door before you actually get these fundings. So I understand that. So it's like we have an issue, we kind of address it, but we still need to come up with a way to address it. And maybe we need to have discussions with the administration as to what city department can actually help to administer these funds, and maybe by way of the mayor or our chief operating officer speaking with some of our stakeholders as to how they can partner with the city to set a pot of money aside for this type of fund. So I do look forward to working with my colleagues on how to address this matter.
Thank you, Councilman Clark. Are there any other further discussion? There be none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilman Rosado,
No.
Councilman Clark,
Pass.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
No.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
No.
Councilman Gale,
No.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
motion failed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilman Mixtum, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would now ask this body to consider and vote on non-financial resolution WFP number 1. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect a decrease of $15,000 currently budgeted for Councilman Mictum's stipend under Court of Common Council 00112. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year there's a typo in this resolution. It says 2020 to 2021 here. and it should say 2022 to 2023, be further amended to reflect an increase of $15,000 distributed on a pro rata basis to the salaries or wages of all city council executive assistants, such that the portion of the monies be divided and paid to them in proportion to the percentage of a full work week for which they are routinely paid from council funds.
Second the motion.
Made and properly second. Councilman Mixton, could you give a brief description of why it is that you're allocating, please?
Yes, and then I'm going to move to amend it because of the typo. But yes, what this is not my great generosity, but the complete lack of generosity of my employer, the Public Defender Division, that does not let me draw any wages for or stipend or anything for this work. So I would not mind having an extra 15 grand. I can't lie, but I cannot have it. And so since I can't have it, I figure our executive assistants they're the glue that makes all this happen. And they certainly deserve to get a little share of it. The description of that whole pro rata hours thing basically just means if someone is a part-time executive assistant, as we have some people who are shared, or we used to, between different departments, how they're paid, this money would go to them the same sort of proportion that they are part-time. So if you work half-time, you would get half as much as someone who's full-time. But the idea is just to divvy it up among them as a nice bonus to say thank you so much, since I can't have it. And now I would move, I guess, a friendly amendment to correct the second resolved, where it says fiscal year 2020-2021, that should say 2022-2023.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any further discussions on this motion to amend the dates? There be none, Mr. Clerk, could you call the roll on the amendment?
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Abstain.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any further discussions on this motion so that we can vote on the actual resolution? There being no further discussion, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Abstain.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilman Mitchum, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move that this body consider and vote on non-financial resolution WFP number 3. I did skip 2 because 2 was withdrawn, so there's nothing going wrong there. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 be amended to reflect that the City of Hartford's Department of Development Services will provide City Council and the public with data, reports, and updates on their hiring of housing code inspectors and the development and implementation of any new strategies for effective oversight of the city's housing code for rental properties.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mitchum.
Just by way of explanation, the Democrats' financial resolutions and the coming ARPA funds do add housing inspectors. This was something that Councilwoman Hercules and I were very focused on, and we appreciate very much that our colleagues and the mayor are on board with it. So by the end of all this, we should go up from 9 positions to 14, I believe, which puts us more in line with cities our size. Our only concern, and the reason we've put forward this resolution, is that we want to really make sure that the Department of Development Services, which oversees the housing inspectors, is getting them hired, which has been a challenge, not just for them, but for many departments in many places. And also developing a system so that housing inspectors aren't just responding to calls, but are also able to do random inspections, because that is a thing that our constituents have told us. They know, and landlords know, that if the inspector shows up, it's because the tenant called. And then there can be consequences for the tenant, especially undocumented tenants who have fewer protections. So we want to see DDS develop a system of regular inspections so that landlords know that the inspector coming doesn't mean the tenant called, because that is the thing that moves the whole process of inspections and improving the quality of housing forward. So it's just a reporting requirement.
Councilman LeBron?
The theme of this, alongside with the housing, we are having housing related issues, and that continues to happen in areas that are poor, right? That continue to allow landlords to do what they do. And I've been ever increasing the amount of phone calls that I'm getting from constituents needing help, both with facing homelessness, but also with the issues and ongoing issues they face in their homes. So when you look at their situation, and if they decide to withhold payment, they face eviction. But if they try to advocate for themselves, there's also like this ability for the landlords to go against them and actually like evict them. So we're increasingly, like, these things are increasingly putting people in poverty, in jeopardy, and in harsh situations, and situations that they can't overcome. So again, as it relates to housing, as it relates to my career in this work, and I know we're all passionate about our constituents, but this one just, again, it hits home, and it's something that we starting to increase. And I would argue that it will increase. We will see even more of it post-pandemic. So I am going to vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Other comments? There be a none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado, Councilwoman Rosado.
I said yes.
It was, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Before I make I'm sorry, because I tried to raise my hand, but yeah, I just want to thank Councilman Mickton for this resolution, because it's extremely important. I received so many calls from tenants who are distraught, who are just losing their mind because of situations like these, and then they're retaliated against. Simply, thank you for this resolution. My answer and my vote is yes. Thank you.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilman Mitchum, you have the floor. And I believe this is the last resolution, correct?
I was about to say, Madam President, this is the last one. I would move this body to consider and vote on non-financial resolution WFP number 4. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be amended to reflect that the City of Hartford Court of Common Council will allocate $5,000 within its own budget for translation and interpretation services to ensure council meetings and resources are accessible to as many Hartford residents as possible.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mitchum.
Again, by way of brief explanation, we did start last year funding interpretation through the library. This year, we're still trying to fund interpretation. We're just doing it differently with the money, and we're basically taking money we already have set aside for communication with the public, civic engagement. And we're just saying, of the $75,000 that council has set aside for civic engagement, we're absolutely earmarking this $5,000 for interpretation to make these meetings accessible to our city that is a multilingual city, and that's all it is.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman LeBron?
I always say that words matter and the words that we use matter, but even more so, words matter in the language that you know matter. So I'll be voting yes to this item as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Hercules,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So council colleagues, here we are, passing our financial and non-financial resolutions. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the Hartford Party, the Working Party for a well job done. I loved our collaboration this year, and I look forward to working with all of you to accomplish our goals. Mr. Clerk, I want to thank you for your hard work and service, along with our corporation Deputy Counsel Alexandra Lombardi, Eric Lusa, our staff who's been with us through this entire budget, and also a special thanks to Sadaya and David. Thank you all, and Hartford Public Access TV for bringing this to everyone on social media. Councilman Mixton.
I just wanted to particularly thank, in addition to all those folks, Councilwoman Hercules and my executive assistant, Renato Muguerza, who is in Peru right now because of a family emergency, but has been available by WhatsApp and by email and filing things and making it happen for us, even from down there while dealing with his family issues. So big shout out to him.
Absolutely. All the best to Renato. We thank you, Renato. Anyone else? I'm opening up the floor for any comments. Councilman LeBron.
Yes, this is two things. So informing the public that although we've been working at this for some hours now, understand that all of us have been working for days, if not months, leading up to this point for the budget. There's been a lot of hard work that has gone up to this point, lots of conversations and things of that nature. So I want to give a shout out to all my council members, but I also want to give a shout out to the leaders who took the initiatives to meet with all folks, so that way we can have a foundation and a baseline to build on, a foundation that was built on bricks and not sand. So thank you to Majority Leader Clark, Assistant Majority Leader Rossetti, and Council President Malley, Rosado, and Councilman Mictum and Councilman Gale of the Hartford Party. I appreciate all of your leadership on getting us here and getting us over the finish line. So shout out to you guys.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rossetti.
Oh,
Sorry.
no. Now I have to say something. No.
It's a long night.
I do want to say this. Don't give me the opportunity. First of all, I'd be remiss if I don't thank a woman who works with me, Charmaine Craig, is a constant, guides me constantly. But I also want to say it was great to be with my colleagues tonight in person. I really realized how much we've missed within the last 2 years by not being able to have the kind of interaction dialogue. I'm in a unique position, like some of my colleagues, that I worked through all of this. So I was going into the office, but hadn't gone into City Hall. And, I think we're at our finest when we can share in that way. So I look forward to more of that. And I thank you all very much.
Councilwoman Surgeon, followed by Councilman Sanchez.
I think she meant to call on me, Merlin, but it was okay. I'm glad she did call on you so you could get your 2 cents in also. I agree with everybody's shout out, but more than anything else, I want to give Mayor Luke Bronin a huge shout out. He basically took the book, take us all and sat us down, and one by one he called and tried to find out what is it going to take to pass this budget. So I want to give him a major shout out for taking the time, the last couple of days to reach out to each and every one of us to find out what was our priorities. And he actually, working with the administration. I want to thank Jen, our CFO. I think she is.
Yes.
Well, I think Jen is CFO, right?
Yes, she is.
Okay. For the time and the patience for all the phone calls to ask about, what this line item, so I just want to thank her for all of her patience in working with us over the last 2 or 3 weeks from the budget hearings. So those are the two person I really want to thank more than anything else to get me to this point. And I want to thank all my council colleagues for their patience in working with all of us. We all may not agree, but we're all certainly have the city of Hartford at our heart. And we're doing this on behalf of everyone, all the residents in the city.
Councilman Sanchez?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. I just want to echo all the special and favorable, sentiments from all of my colleagues here. And thank you for that shout out for the mayor. And also, I want to include all the department heads. Our department heads for the last 7 years has, and some of them aren't with us, but those that were with us in the past included, they've dealt with so many challenges from when I first started with Majority Leader Clark and Councilman Gale back 7 years ago, when the bankruptcy was at hand. What a challenge! And then we came through with this the COVID situation, the pandemic. So shout out to all of you, all the department heads, our COO, our mayor, my colleagues, council president now and before, and all the employees for the Department of Health, to DDS, to DPW, everyone. Thank you for hanging in, hanging out, and surviving with us, because this was a true challenge. And I'm so happy to say that I believe we're finally moving forward. And not only just finally moving forward, but kind of a more solid ground right now, especially after this pandemic. But I will say that shining star that's supposed to have taken off years ago literally took off several years back. And we're just making sure that propulsion is still going forward and into that sky to light up the city of Hartford. And that's what we're all about. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And I also want to say that I am grateful to the mayor, of course, but he's not here with us on the screen today. I want to send out a big shout out to our corporation counsel, Howard Rifkin, who is always available to counsel and who I kind of talk on a daily basis. So Howard, thank you for everything that you do for the city. And I don't want to end this meeting without sending out the biggest shout out I can to our COO, Thea Montanez, who is a bridge to the mayor's office, who is a person that we call and gets things done. As an example, today she had to leave the office, but did not until she came and spoke to us in our office to kind of get those last minute things done. So Thea, thank you very much for always having our back. And with that, everyone have a great night. Oh, I apologize. You guys didn't have your hands up. Councilman Gale and Councilman Clark. I apologize. Go ahead.
I'll defer to the majority leader and go last.
Thank you, Councilman Gale and Council President. I just want to say that this was, I don't know about anybody else, but this was a very difficult budget in our second year in the pandemic. But I do think that, in the art of negotiation, you really never get what you want. And I don't think maybe some of us got everything that we wanted. However, but if we did, it was probably at a reduced level. But some of us are pretty much satisfied. But I want to say that I think this budget in totality really addresses some core economic and community investment, further investment. We've talked about public safety, but more so public safety outside of police. And so we do have investments for our Department of Public Works and our fire department. And these are some things that we have not been able to do through previous council appropriations under the budget that we were able to accomplish today, at least in my 7 years of being on council. Councilman Gale and Councilman Sanchez, you can correct me if we've ever really made this investment into public safety in our infrastructure. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of this year and the rest of this upcoming fiscal year on how we really can, as Councilman LeBron talked about, or Councilman Sanchez, that shining star, because Hartford is a beacon of hope. We are a diverse city and a diverse community. Each of our respective neighborhoods, I believe, are beautiful in its nature. And I think all of us at the end of the day want to see our neighborhoods that we respectively live in and that we advocate for shine. And Hartford is on the rise. We have collectively worked through this pandemic. So I'm thankful for my council colleagues, to our staff, to our partners in the clerk's office and the mayor's office. Thank you to the mayor as well. I echo the sentiments of Councilwoman Surgeon and also to our chief operating officer. So I look forward to what the future holds for all of us as we continue to increase the quality of life in our city.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Gale.
Okay, thank you. You've all said it, so I'm not going to go there. I want to give any public that's actually watching at this point a preview of Monday night. Looking ahead, Monday night there'll be a special treat, a point of personal privilege on my part to give a special proclamation to a lifelong Hartford resident by the name of Michael Oliver, who is a 4-time boxing champion and who on Saturday night is going to be inducted into the Connecticut Boxing Hall of Fame. Mike Oliver will join us Monday night to receive a proclamation from the city, which calls Monday, May 23rd, Mike Machine Gun Oliver Day. Stay tuned for that.
Wonderful. Looking forward to that. With that said, everyone, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Council President.
Yes.
May I just one more comment, please?
Yes.
I would be so remiss if I do not mention that my aide, my executive assistant, Haley Green Ortiz, will be no longer working for my office starting May 23rd. I truly, truly appreciate her service and her professionalism, and wish her the best of luck in her new endeavor. And, she will be starting her new career on May 23rd. Fortunately, it will be within City Hall in the clerk's office. And, but this is a person that took it upon herself to learn and educate herself with everything throughout the City Council's office and the clerk's office. And I believe this is why she qualified. And she has my blessings, and I do appreciate everything that she has done. So thank you, Haley, for everything. And my new executive assistant is Noelia Ortiz, not related, and she's been doing a phenomenal job as a part-timer and fitting in with the council. I do have now that Councilman Gale advertised something, I want my constituents and city to know that I will be hosting in collaboration with Vaughn's Pub House and Painting with a Twist on Pratt Street, a summer kickoff that I've always wanted to do for our community. And it's with a band, a 12-piece band. It's called Mario Pueblo y Sabroso de la Salsa. And that's what they'll be playing, is salsa music. So come over to Pratt Street. It will be 5 to 9. Dance your hearts out. Plenty of restaurants around there. Everyone is welcome. Thank you so much. And I'm Apologize that I did this at the last minute.
I'm looking
Thank you.
forward to that, Councilman Gale. Salsa on Pratt Street.
Yeah, it's Councilman Sanchez.
What did I say?
Councilman Gale.
I'm sorry.
We're tired. We're all
Listen, it's
tired.
been a
Okay,
long
we are
night, and I
tired.
hope we're
Yes.
gonna end it with you, Councilman
please.
LeBron.
Yes, shout out, everybody, shout out their legislative liaison. Shout out to you, Lydia. Have a good night.
Okay,
Good
good
night,
night, everyone. Be
everyone.
safe.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay, we are live back again. And for the record, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you and good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.